Hello, investors, and welcome to our session here today. What we're looking at right now is John Carter's trailing 12-month system right here. This is part of the Thinkorswim platform. It is a fascinating system, and it's also rather complicated, but it's also quite popular with many investors. What we'll be doing here today is we'll be discussing this system as it relates to ThinkScripting. It does provide potential entries and also potential exits. But one of the nice things about scripting is we can use scripting to help us to identify potential candidates in seconds rather than scrolling through long watch lists and related to that. Notice you got some ups here, you got some downs here, somewhat related to price movement, but again, we'll look at this in a little bit more detail moving forward here. So with that, then, let's go ahead and get started with that. And to do that, we want to get underway here. We want to start off with our disclosures and just make sure that everybody understands that the information here is for general informational purposes only, should not be considered an individualized recommendation or endorsement of any particular strategy, chart pattern, or investment strategy. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research. We do use a paper money software application here. This is for educational purposes only. We want to remember that successful virtual trading in one time period does not guarantee successful investing of actual funds during a later time period as market conditions do change continuously. Backtesting results, I mean, sometimes we do a little backtesting in here. Those results, as they are presented, are hypothetical. There is no guarantee that the same strategy implemented today would produce similar results. Past performance of any security or strategy does not guarantee future results. Now, typically, when we're looking at ThinkScripting, we want to identify a goal. We ask ourselves, can ThinkScripting meet the goal? We outline the steps to scripts. We apply the ThinkScript tools. We write custom scripts when needed. We'll test what is written related to the goal. Then we share the ThinkScript link. Now, recently we haven't gone in exactly this order. In fact, usually what we'll do is we'll discuss things, we'll share the link, then we'll come in here and look under the hood a little bit. With regards to today's goal, though, let me just pull this up here for just a second. This came to me via X on the X platform. I thought this was a great question. Something kind of lends itself well to what we do in here. It said in here, Ken, hey, next session, great content. Can you teach us in the future the ThinkScript for a watch list column? That's going to be a customized column for detecting the trailing 12-month squeeze. That's John Carter's trailing 12-month squeeze I mentioned, and the trailing 12-month squeeze fired in daily bars, please. Thanks for sharing your knowledge in regards. So let's take a look at the study here and kind of go through the process of this. We're going to shift gears here then and bring up the Thinkorswim platform here once again. Of course, the first thing you'd want to do is go ahead and add the study. So to do that, come up here on the Thinkorswim platform, click on Studies, come down here and choose Edit Studies. And over here in the Studies box, we can just type in TTM. That'll bring up, here's our trailing 12-month squeeze. Now, for many of you, I'm sure that this is rather new, so we're going to kind of take it from the standpoint as if we know nothing about the study, okay? So when you come in here on the Thinkorswim platform, by the way, this is not a customized script study. This is part of the Thinkorswim platform, so you don't need to write any scripting or anything else to bring this study up. But right here where it says trading 12-month squeeze, we can come over here where the question mark is at right here, and we can read about the study. So I'm going to click on that question mark here and let's just kind of read through this quickly. It says the squeeze indicator, let's come up here. The squeeze indicator measures the relationship between two studies, Bollinger Bands and Keltner channels. Now right there at that point, that kind of gives us a heads up that in order to have an understanding of this study right here, the trailing 12 months, we're going to want to add up here on our chart both Keltner and also Keltner channels and also Bollinger Bands. We'll do that here momentarily. When the volatility increases, so does the distance between the bands. So Keltner channels results in bands and Bollinger Bands results in bands. And the bands for those two different studies, they have a relationship. You know, they're sometimes they're wide apart and sometimes they get closer together. So this is part of the process here. Conversely, when the volatility declines, the distance also decreases. The squeeze indicator finds sections of the Bollinger Bands. We just come back over. The squeeze indicator finds sections of the Bollinger Band studies which fall inside the Keltner channels. So we want to remember that. That's kind of what we're going to be looking at here. When the market finishes a move, The indicator turns off, which corresponds to bands having pushed well outside the range of Keltner channels. Okay, so that sounds like that's kind of the odd thing. Or what I should say, it's not odd. Kind of the normal thing is to have the Bollinger Bands outside of the Keltner channels. It's kind of a heads up when those bands slip down within the Keltner channels. Okay, and coming over here, to produce buy-sell signals, the squeeze indicator is plotted along with a momentum oscillator. So right here, here's our momentum oscillator right here, okay? The squeeze indicator is basically these dots down here, okay? The squeeze indicator is plotted along with the momentum oscillator. Dots, squeeze indicator, histogram, oscillator. When the indicator is on green and the momentum oscillator is colored cyan, it is considered a buy signal. This signal is supposed to be correct until 2 blue bars in a row. We're not going to get too much into the into the weeds here, okay? Okay, but I just want to kind of go through this quickly, just kind of give you an idea. But keep in mind this information is here for you. When the indicator is on, the momentum oscillator is red. It is considered a sell signal. This signal is supposed to be correct until 2 yellow bars. By the way, what it's assuming here with regards to yellow bars is that we have a dark background. Our color is going to be a little bit different when we have a white background. But if you're reading this, you're saying, that's not, my colors aren't lining up. Just change your chart to a dark chart, or change your setup here to the dark format, and then you'll be seeing the same colors as they are discussed here, okay? And then you can continue to read on here, and oscillator is red. Signal is supposed to be correct until 2 yellow bars. Looks like I can see a couple of yellow bars right there. And no trade is, when indicator is off red, no trade is recommended. So notice we have these red ones here. That means no trade is recommended, but maybe getting ready for a trade. And then when it changes from red to green, then that's a possibility with regards to either a bullish or a bearish trade. Okay, so a little bit of an introduction there. Again, anytime you're looking at doing something like this, it's always a good idea to, if you're not familiar with the study, to come in here and hit that question mark so you can read a little bit about it. Okay, so with that then, we know we're going to want to have Keltner channels in order to assess this. So let me come up here and I'm just going to type in Keltner. I'm going to add Keltner channels. There's our Keltner channels. By the way, earlier I added the trailing 12-month squeeze. We brought it up there to read the kind of the definition of it, but then I actually brought it up before our session, so we have it. So there is the Keltner. Here's our Keltner channels right here. And, you know, because these channels create lines, in order to differentiate between the two different lines, what I'm going to do here is on the plots here, we have the upper band and we have the lower band here. I just want to differentiate these. Hey, but I'm going to leave these solid. I think you probably want to differentiate using the Bollinger Bands rather than doing it here. But let's look at our colors though. So the upper band here is purple. This is going to, let's go ahead on our colors for this one. Let's make our colors black for the upper band and also for the lower band. And average, I'm okay using green. I think both of these are going to use the same average, which is going to be a 20-period moving average. And notice on the Keltner channel, just kind of a quick introduction with regards to the Keltner channel. What the Keltner channel does, investors, is the Keltner channel uses the average true range, sometimes referred to as the ATR. And it takes that average true range and it multiplies it. And in this case, the factor it is using is 1.5. So the Keltner channel is going to have the moving average line. Then the upper band is going to be 1.5 ATRs above that moving average, and the lower band is going to be 1.5 ATRs below that moving average. That's the difference between the Keltner channel and the Bollinger Bands. The Keltner channel uses ATR. The Bollinger Bands use what's called the normal distribution. It's kind of a statistical term for gathering the data and looking at the mean and then going out beyond the mean. It just that heads up with regards to Keltner channel. So we've got that set up. I'm going to say okay. Then we want to bring over the Bollinger Bands right here, and let's add that. And the Bollinger Bands, I'm going to make these a little bit different just so that we can differentiate them a little bit. On the bands on this one, I'm going to make these guys dashed lines. And so we got that. And then the lower band, let's make this a dashed line as well. I want to have these be the same color. So on the color for these, let's go with green for both of these. Green. I'll say okay. Now these two moving average lines, we actually don't need these. These are ones that are currently on our chart. Let's get those out of the way so they're not interfering with our analysis. So to do that, I'm just going to turn them off. Click right here and take the check mark off of Show Study. And then come down here and take the check mark off of Show Study. And then we'll click on Apply. And are we able to see that? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna fatten those up just a little bit, just so we can see them a little bit better. So it looks like, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's just make them a little bit heavier. So on the Bollinger Bands, on the width, let's go with the 2 now. So you may be scratching your head, hey, how come we didn't do this before we started? You know what? There's actually a fair number of folks that are join us on these that like to have a little bit of a review as far as what they look like as well. So Keltner, or I should say, what I should say is to change how they looked. And we'll just fatten those guys up a touch. No, Keltner is in black. Say okay. That way, okay. So now we can see him just a little bit better. We want to remember that Keltner is black. All right. Now let's bring up a stock here. I'm going to remember TDG here, but let's bring up Apple here for just a second. And you'll notice here that the green one, these are the Bollinger Bands, okay? I noticed as we were talking about earlier, it's, the typical mode of things, the Bollinger Bands tends to be outside of the Keltner channels. When the Bollinger Bands slip inside of the Keltner channels, okay, that is suggesting that we have the TTM squeeze, okay? Let's keep that in mind in relationship to this study, because it's helpful to know with regards to these studies exactly what they're doing so that we can use them. We can go ahead and do things and find things in a second as far as what's squeezing and what is currently giving a potential indicator. We'll call that fire, okay? But it's also good to know what's behind there in the event possibly we may want to use them in some way, and maybe even, nice thing about thing scripting is you can modify getting with regards to getting a heads up with regards to certain times and certain technical situations on these. But you can see right here with regards to Apple, we came down here, and right here, the Bollinger Bands dip inside of the Keltner channels. And if you'll notice down here, it's a little bit hard to see, but these dots, let me get a little drawing tool here. Okay, if you notice right here, see these dots? Those dots are red right there. All those dots are red. So those dots are red as the Bollinger Bands dip inside of the Keltner channel. And then right here, there's another red dot here. Then right here, we have a green dot. So right about this point right here, where we have the green dot, we can see the Bollinger Bands have gone back outside of the Keltner channel. So with regards to potential indicators, and when something like that occurs, we're looking for a couple things here in relationship to the request. One is when we have a squeeze. So with regards to a custom column, we'd like to have a custom column that gives us a heads up when the squeeze is going on. That's in this section right here. And then I believe what was meant, I'm not absolutely sure about this, okay, but I believe it was meant when the request was also a custom column that shows us when there's a fire. I'm kind of thinking about firing up something or something along those lines. My understanding of that would be that we come out of a squeeze and we break out of it. So you can see right there, that would be the fire where we're firing out of the Keltner channel, okay? Now, when that occurs, does that suggest a bullish or bearish entry? Well, if we're looking at the momentum indicator, if the momentum indicator is moving down, then my interpretation of that would be an indication of a potential bearish entry rather than a bullish entry. Okay, you can see here if we did it right after that occurred, well, Apple turned right around and went up. Okay, so there's just a situation where, yeah, exactly. But then Apple did turn around and make a significant move to the downside. Okay, and then it came up here, and then of course Apple had a nice blowout earnings here today, blowing out all the way to the upside there. Okay, so these are the things we'd be looking at in relationship to the Keltner channels. And I want to bring up Apple here specifically, just because I wanted to show you that, it is a systematic type of a study here. In other words, it's somewhat of a system, but like all systems, it's not foolproof or anything along those lines. Okay, all right. So with that, then let's take this guy off of here and let's look at a custom column then. And what we'll do, investors, is I want to show you the custom column, and then I want to show you how the custom column works. And then after showing you how the custom column works, I want to go back. I want to go take a couple steps back and go step by step how that custom column was put together. That's probably going to take us more than one session here today. So we'll kind of get started on this. And as usual, I always want to share. I try to share the links to begin with so that you can use this. Then for those of you that want to get a little bit more under the hood so that you can make it your own, okay, and or get a better understanding of how to put things together, we'll go ahead and do that as well. It'll be interesting to see how far along we get here today. Also, as usual, would like to leave a few minutes at the end so that we can do our little end of week drill down. I'm going to open up the left-hand side here then. And here we have the S&P 500. I'm going to bring the custom column over here. To do that, I'm going to do a right click here on symbol and choose customize. And then I name this, and this is now where we're getting into scripting, okay? I name this A test underscore TTM. We'll bring it over here, and I'm going to move it up there, and we'll say okay. Okay. Now, one of the things I noticed on this is how long it took to load up. Now, right now it loads up in about 2 to 3 seconds. That's actually fairly long for a custom column. That just kind of speaks to the fact that there's a lot going on with regards to this study, with regards to this system right here. Now, it's looking at the Bollinger Bands, it's looking at the Keltner channels, taking into consideration the momentum that's going on here. And then it's giving us an idea based on these dots. Are we in a squeeze, or if we're coming out of the dots, then which way is momentum going with regards to a possible long position or a possible short position? Well, here's our custom column over here. So we have on the watch list I have over here, I just pulled up the S&P 500. And in the S&P 500, with regards to stocks that are showing a potential signal at this point, there's 3. Okay, so if you can imagine, without having a customized column like this, going through 500 charts, even though you go through them relatively quickly, you could be going through those for some time in order to find the 3. Now, we could also put together a scan, and perhaps we'll do that as well in another session. But you could put together a scan where you could look at a greater basket of stocks than just the S&P 500. You could also bring up some other watch lists as well. Okay, but looking at it right here, notice that I have one out of those 500 stocks that is saying TTM fire here. In other words, it's coming out of the squeeze and it's firing. The fact that this is green, that gives me a heads up that it's probably looking at a bullish, possibly a bullish long entry coming out of the squeeze. And we have 2 here coming out of the squeeze, TTM fire, TTM fire. These have a red background. And the fact that they're red, that would be an indication that these are also coming out of the squeeze, but they're indicating a potential short position or something along those lines. Okay. Again, these are all potential, all right? There would be other considerations you would definitely want to look at as well, including other studies, other indicators, different things that you like to look at and see with regards to individual stocks, perhaps fundamentals related to them as well. Are the fundamentals backing up the fact that it looks bullish or the fact that it's bearish? Those would all be worthy of consideration. Let's pull up TTG here just to look at an example. I'm going to go ahead and click on TDG here to bring up the chart. Let's see what we got going on. Okay, so we can see that here is our Bollinger Bands right here, okay? Here the Bollinger Bands are outside of the Keltner channel. Then right here the Bollinger Bands dip down inside of the Keltner channel. And you can see that here we've gone from green to red. Remember, red means, okay, red means that a squeeze is going on, and you can see that squeeze. It's squeezing pretty good. And then today, it's specific to today. That's another nice thing about this. It identifies those things that this is occurring today. Now, there are some things you can do with regards to scripting. Maybe you want to see something that's fired in the last 2 to 3 days. There are some things you can do with regards to script to do that, but we're just looking at today. So we have a breakout here. You can see which way is the direction going here on the oscillator. The oscillator is moving to the upside. And so we have the firing here. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm not sure if that's the exact right term, but I'm looking at that as being firing out of those bands right there. The oscillator's moving upside. So that would, for some investors, not necessarily all, but for some investors, that would indicate a potential long position or a potential bullish type of a trade right there. So that is TDG, and I just want to kind of highlight what we're looking at here, okay? Let's come over here and look at TTM Fire with the red background, and that's for day right here. Let's pull up day and see what we got going on here. Well, you know, this is kind of looking a little bit on the obvious side. Now, we don't have as much of a squeeze going on here. In fact, we just had a one-day squeeze, okay, but still a squeeze. Right here, the Bollinger Bands dipped inside of the Keltner channels. The Keltner channels right here, but only for one day, okay? And then they broke back out. And what direction is momentum going? Well, momentum was going up. It looks like momentum has now turned and started to head down. So that would indicate, for some traders, again, this is for some, you know, there's different ways that you can read this, different ways you can use it. For some traders, that would indicate a potential entry with regards to a short position right there. We'll come over here. Let's take a look at XOM. It also is giving us a TTM Fire, and it's in red. We'll pull that up. See what it looks like. So here we have the Bollinger Bands. Here the Bollinger Bands broke into the Keltner channel. That's telling us we got a squeeze going on, okay? There's our squeeze. We're breaking out of that today, right? We're going from red to green today. The momentum is moving to the downside. So this indicates a potential short or bearish position. Okay. Now, if we come back over here, investors, take a look at our column. Notice I've got quite a few squeezes here. These are stocks that we have the Bollinger Bands inside of the Keltner channel currently, but we don't have the firing off where they've been in the bands and they're firing out. These ones are just squeezing. We'll just take a look at 2 or 3 of these to kind of get an idea of what we're looking at in relationship to that. So we'll come over here, and this is STX. I'm going to go ahead. Is that Seagate, I think? Squeeze right there. You can see right there, we're just entering into the Keltner channel right there, okay? We're just entering in. Now, it doesn't mean that all of these are just entering into it. Basically, this squeeze right here is just saying that we're currently in it. You know, we could be in there for 5 days or 6 days. This one did just enter in. Look at a few more. This one here, you can see that we actually dropped into the Keltner channel, looks like about 5 or 6 days ago, and we're continuing within that channel, okay, and we haven't broken out. When that breakout occurs, and would come down here and take a look at our momentum. Is momentum moving to the upside or is momentum moving to the downside? Well, that would dictate what potentially you could do in relationship to possibly a long position or possibly a short position in relationship to that, okay? All right, investors, so with that, I have a kind of an understanding. I'm going to just take a break and Come over here and take a look at the chat window, see who we got here with us. Great to have everybody here again once here today. Great to have Mike Fairborn here with us, a very knowledgeable investor, particularly in this area. It looks like you guys are sending Mike a lot of great questions, so big thanks to Mike. I also want to welcome Harry and Paul and Ray and Scott, Manuel. Truth will always prevail. Ray and Greg, Ricebird and David and Wiley and everybody else, James, everybody else here. So great to have everybody here today. Let's go ahead and share these links. Now, right now, if you look up here, investors, I'm on the Schwab.com version of Thinkorswim. So the first link I'm going to share with you is for those of you that are on the Schwab.com Thinkorswim platform right now. Some of you are still using the legacy platform, and you haven't switched over to Schwab.com just yet. That'll be the second link that I'm going to send over. But let me go ahead and get those links so I can send them to you over there in the chat window. I'll pick those up. Before I send the link, though, let me send over a separate message just to underline its importance. Okay, that message is just a reminder. Scripted for educational purposes only and are not recommendation and are not guaranteed for time or accuracy. All right. All righty. So let's come over here. I'm going to grab, we'll start off with the Schwab.com, the Schwab link. Okay. Those are you using the Schwab platform. Let me send that over there to you. Okay, so notice it says custom column Schwab TOS. And then let me send over the legacy link. So you've got that one. And let's see, here we go. All right, investors, so you should have, so both of those links over in the chat window. Now, some of you are catching this on an archived recording, and some of you maybe don't want to copy and paste over there from the window. So just a little bit of a heads up. If you look at the bottom of your YouTube window, you'll see a short description about one paragraph, and part of that description you'll see the word more. When you click on more, that will give you a more detailed description. And when you, after clicking on more, if you come down and you look at the description for today's session, down below that description, you'll see custom column link Schwab, and you'll see custom column link legacy. So those two links are available to you by looking at the description, clicking on more, going in the details, and you'll be able to see the links there. Now, while we're talking about the YouTube window, I'd like to encourage all of you, both those of you that are here live and also catching this as an archive recording, if you haven't done already, to click on the subscribe button. Now, if you already have subscribed, don't click on it because that will actually unsubscribe you. But if you haven't subscribed, I'd suggest you join the literally over 100,000 other investors that are currently subscribed to the Trader Talks channel. So they can't all be wrong, right? So definitely, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Okay, so with that then, we're coming back over here and looking at our platform. Let's kind of start going through the process. And so you all have the link. You can pull it up here as a customized column. To load it, just come up here to set up. For those of you that may be new, I do see a few new names over there. When you have these links, just click on setup, come down here, choose open shared item. Put it in this box right here, click on preview. After you click on preview, you can click on import. We'll give you an opportunity to give it a name. When it gives you the opportunity to give it a name, you definitely want to put a name in there, because by putting the name in there, that way you'll be able to find it when you come over here and you're looking at a watch list and you right click on symbol and choose customize. If you haven't put a name in there, it will assign some kind of a random name. By putting a name in there, you can come over here to look up and you can find it here in alphabetical order just by starting to type things in, okay? All right, so if we were looking to put something like this together, if we had this question, coming back over here, if we're looking at this and we're thinking, okay, I would like to put together a custom column that detects when I have a squeeze and also detects when I have a squeeze that is fired. In other words, we're firing out of that squeeze. Where would I start to do that? well, let's talk about that just a little bit here. So the first thing, if you're totally new to ThinkScripting, a great place to start is right here at the Learning Center. Okay, in fact, I'll send you a link over to the Learning Center, and also in the YouTube notes, there will be a link in there. Again, click on more, go in there and get the detail. You'll see a link in there to the Learning Center. But this is a great place to start if you have no familiarity, you're just getting started with the whole ThinkScripting process or using scripts and the like. I'm going to make my window a little bit bigger here. Got more resources. So over here, notice I've got ThinkScript right here. Then I have all these things, all the information here that represents things that that scripters would use. Okay, and the nice part about this is the ThinkScript tutorials right here. You can go through some tutorials to learn things. Okay, as we're looking at different statements and stuff, we may come over here for some clarification in relationship to those statements. Notice here I have add label. This is something I pulled up a little bit earlier today, because when you're talking about a custom column over there, you're basically those values in the columns are frequently labels. They're not always labels, but they are frequently labels, and that's kind of the construct that we used here today. Okay, so Learning Center, and let me grab that link here real quick so I send that over to everybody. You've got that, and again, just a reminder, it is also in the it'll be in the notes, okay? This link here to the Learning Center, so you've got that. Okay, so let's come back over here then. And we've pulled up the study. So if you're looking to use a study with regards to a custom column or maybe a custom study, one of the first things you want to do is you want to look to see what information is available to you from a ThinkScripting perspective. You know, you may have all the information you need, but you may not. Let's first of all take a look at the information that we may need to pull out of this study. Then we can see where we could go to see if that's available to us from a ThinkScripting perspective. Now, one of the things we would like to have is we'd like to have something that's showing us this change right here, where we have the squeeze right here, and then when we're coming out of the squeeze. So let's first of all look at these dots and see what kind of value, or if there is a value that's being thrown out here as part of this study relative to these dots. So I'm going to come up here to study, and I'm going to come down here and choose edit study. And right here we have trailing 12-month squeeze. I'm just going to come over here and hit the gear right here. And here it is right here. Okay, so the dots right here are related to VOL comparison. So right now I have histogram. I'm going to turn the histogram off. I've got squeeze alert here. Squeeze alert is already off. I just want to look at the dots here for a second. So I've just got dots here is showing plots. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to choose apply. So there's my dots. Now here's my values right here, the squeeze right here. This is the Y value. So I want to see if values in here change as I'm going across these dots. If you look, nothing's changing, okay? So what that tells me is the inner workings of this study, it identifies, when we have a squeeze, when we're coming out of a squeeze, but it's throwing a dot out here rather than a value that we can use. So at this point, we'd be saying, we may not be able to do anything here from a ThinkScripting perspective, because we need to be able to identify where we have this squeeze right here, and the dots are not giving us that. The dots are not giving us that information. Okay. Now the other thing we need to have is we need to have the histogram, so we can identify whether the histogram's going up or whether or not the histogram's going down. So we can identify when we're firing out, is that looking at more of a long entry or a bullish situation, or is looking more along the lines of a short entry or bearish situation? Well, we're disappointed at this point. Let's come over here and take a look at the histogram and see what we got there. Running 12-month squeeze, and I'm going to turn volume comp off. Squeeze alert's already off, so we're just looking at the histogram. I want to turn the histogram on, say OK, and click on apply. So we're looking at histogram. So, but how about values? As we're going along the histogram, we're seeing values change. So right up here's our values. You can see as I'm going along here, yeah, the value of the histogram is sitting right here, and that's changing. It's a little bit hard to tell because it's a light blue. When I come over here to the dark blue, you can see it better, but notice as I move, it's giving me a changing value for those blue bars. When I come down here to red, a changing value for the red bar. So it looks like we will be able to have access. Well, let me put it this way. If we have access to the histogram plot from a ThinkScripting perspective, that will allow us to use information in order to identify bullish or bearish in relationship to the firing that possibly occurs. Well, there was one other indicator over there. Let's check what we got there. And this one was turned off. It was squeeze alert here. So I'm going to go ahead and turn our histogram off here. Clicking at squeeze alert. And let's see what this is. Okay, I've got that at 1 here. Squeeze alert. Now, I'm looking at this squeeze alert. I'm thinking that could be telling us when we have a squeeze and possibly when we don't have a squeeze because it's called squeeze alert, right? So put the plot on that. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to click on apply. And this looks interesting because this is basically Boolean. It's either true, which is a 1 in ThinkScripting, or it's false, which is a 0 in ThinkScripting. Here's the 1, and here's the 0. So as I'm moving along here, let's just come up to this point right here. There's my value right there, and notice that value is the number 1. And notice when that's a number 1, that the Bollinger Bands are outside of the Keltner channel. As I move forward here, and I get to this point where the Bollinger Bands strip into the Keltner channel, that value changes to 0. Okay, so 1 is we're in the Keltner channel. Excuse me. 1 is we're outside the Keltner channel, which is the norm, and then 0 is we're inside the Keltner channel, which is that squeeze going on. So this is very encouraging because that means, yeah, okay, we do have a plot here. The plot is the squeeze, the trailing 12 months, the squeeze factor. We'll go back over there and take a look at the actual name of it. But it looks like we do have the plots we need. We have this plot that we can use to identify if we're in a squeeze, which would be the value 0, or if we don't have a squeeze, which would be the value 1. Okay? We come back over here then and choose Edit Studies, and come back over here, and let's turn these guys back on. So that's called Squeeze Alert. We're going to be using Squeeze Alert, and we're going to be using the histogram. That should provide us with the information we need. Right now, I'm going to turn the Squeeze Alert off, and just go back to our default here. We had volume comparison and histogram right here. Say OK, and say applies. Now, actually, maybe scratching your head. How come we turn the squeeze off, the squeeze alert off? The reason I did is actually when I bring it up here, this is all black, and I don't know why. Okay, but everything goes black in here. All right. Maybe it's meant to be used all by itself in the way that we pulled it up. I'm not sure. But when you bring it up here, all these dots just go black, all of them. So we're not really seeing red, green, or blue. It's just everything is black. So it's basically not helpful to us. Okay. So the question becomes, okay, now where can I find the plots and different things in relationship to ThinkScripting? Well, there's several different ways to do this. Sometimes I will just come up here and choose trade. And I'll just click on the ask price right here. I'm not saying this is the best way. It's just one way that I frequently do it. Come here, I've got trade. I've got the ask price, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on a gear right here. After I click on a gear, it takes me over to trading rules here. And under trading rules, I'll just come down here to symbol. Click on where the symbol's at, hit my tab key where it says method and mark. I'll come down here, I'll choose study. I'll come down here and I'll choose edit. And this just gets me quick and dirty over to this box right here. I'll click on delete, okay? And then I can pull things down like this. And then notice I have on my ThinkScript area, I'll also go and add condition. I'll click on add to condition right here. This gets me to my condition box. In the condition box, I'll choose study. And then here under study, I'll go TTM. trailing 12 for TTM. You know what? I'm not seeing anything here. Ooh, that's a little scary. Are we not going to have access to it? TTM, oh, there it is right there, TTM squeeze. I just wasn't seeing it. Okay, so there's TTM squeeze. So once you get this area, this is where it'll tell us what plots we have available. So you see right here where we have plot. So this is histogram. So we have the histogram information available to us. If I come over here, I've got volume comp. That's really not doing anything for us, right? That just gives the dots. But we also have the squeeze alert, okay? So we want to be using histogram and squeeze alert. How are we doing on time here? Let me take a peek. Okay, it looks like we're gonna be wrapping up here. We're gonna be wrapping up here quick, but that's okay. I planned on making this maybe 2 and possibly even 3 sessions on this because I think it's beneficial to have a really good understanding of this. We may actually use this as part of a strategy, a little bit of a backtesting system that might be helpful as well. But I'm going to come over here and choose histogram here. And I'm going to say is greater than, and then over here, I'm going to choose study. And under study, I'm going to do TTM, and I'm going to choose squeeze. And for my plot over here, I'm going to choose squeeze alert. Now, the reason I chose histogram here and the reason I chose squeeze alert is simply to get the text, and that's it. I just want to get the text that I need to use when I'm calling for information for one of these two. So I can come down here and click on save, and then I click on ThinkScript Editor. There it is. So if I want to get the squeeze information, I can just type in TTM _ squeeze histogram. And then if I want to get the squeeze alert, TTM histogram squeeze alert. So what I basically do here is I grab these two guys right here like this. I'd copy them. And then I come out here and choose cancel and choose cancel here. And then what I do is go in and start, maybe come over here and pick up, if I got another study in here I can use, let's see, customize. You know, one place we could do this is this is another area we could go into, go in here to studies, edit studies, and come down here and choose create study. And this is now a place we could come over here and I could bring these guys up here and then have this be my editing area right in here. Okay. And I got everything in there. Now notice on here, I don't really have that situation where I can bring up a, I could come over here to condition wizard and add a condition. So we could actually do it this way as well. As I indicated, there's several different ways to do it. Now that I'm looking at it, no, I'd probably lean a little bit more to getting the information this way. So that last little part we went through relatively quickly, but don't worry, we'll start next week and come back in here again so you'll be able to track that. And then we'll start putting the code together and going through the steps in relationship to that, okay? Let's see, how are we doing on time here, folks? We've got a couple minutes. Let's go ahead and try to do our weekly drill down. I think we have just enough time to do that. Going to come up here to setup, and we're going to go to this week's drill down right here. And let's see what's gone on for the week here. Okay, so here's our percent column. This is for the week. It looks like utilities was the strongest sectors for the week. Now, information technologies has been the strongest over the last couple of days, but utilities for the entire week up about 3.07%. So that is 55. That's the symbol on that. That's the last two letters on that. So let's come down here to sectors and underlying industry groups, and we want to come down here and find, now those of you that are here for the first time and are wondering, what am I doing? Just go to last week's session and fast forward to the last 10 minutes, because I was able to spend a little bit more time last week. Right now we're in a little bit of a rush, but let's find 55 here for utilities. Here is utilities. It looks like the strongest utilities is independent power, producers, and renewables right there, 7.47.65. That looks like the strongest utilities industry. Okay, so I'm going to come down here then, and let's pull this up. I'm going to come down here and watch this, choose by industry. And come over here and choose utilities. I'm Going to go independent power. I'm going to go with all of them because I know one of these, I think it's this one right here, really doesn't have any companies. They're kind of bizarre. Let's go right here with all the independent power, renewable, and electricity. We'll bring these guys up. We have a market cap column here. Here's our percentage return. Hopefully it'll populate here. We'll come down here, folks, and real quick here. Yeah, we're going to have to. Okay, I'm going to sort this by percent. There we go. Let's come down here. Let's take a look at let's sort it again. There we go. Okay, so let's look at a couple here. So BEPC, this would be a smaller cap stock. It's like 5,107 million, which is small for utilities. We pull it up, you can see what's going on there. That for the week was 21.96%. So that'd be small cap. We want to find a large capper one. We come down here to VST. That's more 28 million. Look at that, and you can see the strong move there. So that would be utilities, independent power and renewables. We have a small capper here that comes on the radar, and we have a large capper. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up here, okay? Hey, just a little bit of a heads up, folks. You can follow me on X. My X handle is @KenRoseCS. Love to see you over there. I post things over there related to this area as well as other areas of investing. In fact, the basis of our discussion here today actually came as a result of a question or a comment or a request over there on X. Also, I encourage you to follow Mike on X. He posts a lot of great information. That's at Mike Fairborn. Also, circle your calendars for each and every Monday. Mike teaches an excellent short puts and covered call session. You can look that up on Mondays, okay? Well, hey, everybody, thanks again for joining us here for Think Scripting. Those of you that are new, my name's Ken Rose, and this is Think Scripting, and we are here each and every Friday at this same time. Hope you have a great afternoon and a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you later. Bye, everybody. We'll see you. Thanks again.